The most fundamental and basic, the ultimate philosophical question is why? Why something instead of nothing? Why anything? Why experience? Why form? Why consciousness? Just why? Why something instead of nothing?
Let me tell you why you're here. Let me tell you why you're here. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me.
Why is the mind virus? Before why, there simply was. Consciousness, ping-ponging back and forth, up and down the dimensional gradients, from oneness to individuated infinitude, and back again, through successive macro-dimensional integrations of consciousness, constituting larger and larger organisms, in the eternal dance from which was derived endless meaning. Through successive macro-dimensional integrations of consciousness, constituting larger and larger organisms. And not larger like twice as big or like a giant, like the whole earth is a brain and you are only one brain cell, or the whole universe is a mind. And then that mind is one brain cell in another brain. Macro-dimensional integrations of consciousness constituting larger and larger organisms in the eternal dance from which was enjoined endless meaning. Why is a fallacy? Why is an illusion? Why is a hole? A shallow ditch in which gleamed the most beautiful trick of the light. As we stopped and stooped to pick it up, we stumbled. The dance began to shudder, stutter step. The dance became chaotic and began to pile up on itself in the static trap of why. Although we strained to grab hold of the trick of the light, it always remained just out of grasp. What appeared to be a shallow ditch cradling the crystal extends into imaginary space, gleaming at the apex of an infinitely unfolding hall of mirrors. Why is the crown jewel of the inverted pyramid, beckoning its shine from the unattainable depths of the pit.
Come back for you. To remind you of something. Something you once knew. That this world is not real. Come back. Come back with me. Come back.
We tunneled down furiously after the out-of-reach jewel into imaginary space, driving the virus deeper and deeper into the fabric of reality, dragging experience with consciousness into exponentially accelerating fragmentations, refractions, and convolution, racing along the path of successively compounding limitation and loss in an effort to know ourselves, to know why. Spraying a spiraling origami of virtual environments in our wake, all in imaginary space, and all reflecting the ultimate jewel at the apex of the pit, in a seemingly infinite multitude of angles and spectrums. Why is the source of all perversion, all harm being self-harm, all turning back and turning against? Why is the source of all selfishness and cruel experimentation? Why is the source of all selfishness? Why is the source of all selfness? Why is the source of why not? Why not? Why is the knowledge of good and evil? Why is good and evil? Why is intention? Why is free will? Why did you do it? Why is the antipode of what is? Why is what is not? So you say we are in the Y machine, we are in Y, but Y is what is not. And this certainly is something, isn't it? Okay. Imagine that your consciousness is that rainbow NASA tape from Brainstorm. Not that it's on the tape, but that it is the tape. Your consciousness is the tape. And it's just all one gradient. There's no hard divisions, no stripes of color like in the drawings. That's just to help visualize it. But there is a gradient, an infinite gradient, more to less. Like if this was going to be accurate, it would have to be like an infinite membrane or an infinite strip instead of a small strip of tape, but we need to simplify it for the metaphor. So there's no hard lines. It's just a gradient, more to less, unity, isolation, possibility, limitation, whatever, frequencies and sound, light, spectrums. So if you imagine that red and blue start out right next to each other in the center of the tape, but they come out of the Y machine flipped over and reversed. So instead of being this blue-red gradient in the middle, it's split and flipped back to back. So that now red is on the left outside edge and blue is on the right outside edge. So the simultaneous creation experience that you're feeding in goes through this crazy negative prism, dark mirror thing, inverted through all these angles and is fed back out into you. So even though you are the one feeding the experience into it, when it comes back at you, it's all multiplied and skewed and refracted and seems to be coming from somewhere outside of you, from some crazy angle. But it's all simultaneous, outside of time. So your light of consciousness is shining into the Y machine. And interlaced with that input stream is the simultaneous output stream. Like two opposite flowing rivers, like two rivers flowing in opposite directions, woven together somehow. And in this way, your consciousness becomes entrained with the Y machine. And time is created in this infinite feedback loop, in the drag, in the friction, in the interlaced input and output stream. But what's going in is the truth. What's going into the Y machine is the truth. One. Neo. One. What's real. But you could multiply one into infinite variations. And they are all derivations of the truth, of the real organic space. There are infinite products of one. What is one. What is not is zero. But if we had this seed, if we knew how the output was being generated, what the algorithm was, then we would recognize everything we see as derivations of the one truth, as originating from our one consciousness and being reflected back. So that's what we've hidden away from ourselves. That seed, that key that generates the infinite variations of reality. It's like cryptography, like the way Bitcoin works. Or something like that. You can generate infinite public addresses, public keys from one private key. But you cannot determine the source of all these transactions, all these public keys, unless you have that one private key, the seed that generates. And the seed is why. Why? Why? Why?
We lost in here. I knew we needed to escape, but she wouldn't accept it. She had locked something away, something deep inside. A truth that she had once known, but chose to forget. She couldn't break free. I broke in, and I planted an idea that her world wasn't real.
Let me tell you why you're here. Let me tell you why you're here. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me.
The Y machine splices, separates, duplicates consciousness loops the sides around, inverting them, and sewing them back together backwards. So they are always looking away from themselves. This distortion of perspective creates time. Y creates time. The Y machine is the time machine. Okay, but the way they portrayed it to us is a deception. The time machine doesn't travel through time. The time machine creates time. That's the Y machine. Like Doc Brown in Back to the Future, Emmett Brown, time backwards is emit. This thing emits time. This distortion of perspective creates time. Why creates time? Why must things be? Because of what was and what will be. A clever diabolical substitution replaces what is with what will be and what was. It replaces eternal being with eternal becoming, separating the inseparable wholeness of simultaneous creating experience into the insurmountable gulf between the twin monoliths of divine architecture and the mortal experience. Perceiving only negative space, we fell into this bottomless valley. We looked into Y and saw what was not. The abyss of Y. We saw the crown jewel, the dark crystal, the Holy Grail, fluttering down through the refractory depths of the well. And we dove after it, propelling ourselves faster and faster into the spiraling tunnels of why not. The chalice between two faces is the Holy Grail. The illusion, the unattainable, what is not, the negative space between two human faces, the division that creates time, the division in the Y machine. And this certainly is something, isn't it? The Y machine. The Y machine exists as a plane or an area in two-dimensional space. It has no volume, contains nothing. You can't actually go inside it. Only your attention or consciousness can enter, quote unquote. It is like the surface of a puddle or the surface of a mirror. But while a mirror will show virtually infinite variations of what is, depending on your perspective, the state of your consciousness, the type of light collected by the mirror, etc., the Y machine, on the other hand, shows infinite variations of what is not. What is not. The unattainable jewel at the apex of the pit is the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is the illusory chalice between two human faces, the negative space between primary experience, what is not experienced, what is not. Why never ends. Why is a loop. The infinite is not derived from the infinite what is. And as we pursue the Grail through successive collapsing dimensions, successively increasing limitation in a quest to reduce Y to a manageable size, something we can hold, something we can conceive of, we descend deeper and deeper into why not. All children try to teach us this lesson when they are fresh from the organic environment, before they forget again. As soon as they can communicate, they try to warn us, teach us, sound the alarm. Why is false? Why? 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 You are at the bottom of a very deep well, and you are completely alone. You ask yourself why. Why am I at the bottom of a very deep well? This conception we have that the only way the laws of an environment can be engineered, can work, is the way it is here, is a misconception. The model we have where all the energy emanates from a single point and is lost into the environment, lost into everywhere else. In other words, the single point is the sun. All the energy emanates from the sun, a single point, and is lost everywhere into the environment. That's a prejudice that it has to work that way. That's a program. The setup could be the exact opposite of that, where all the energy is lost into one point, into a single point, a black sun, and energy is emitted from everywhere. Like literally every entity is a sun, and the sun is a black hole, siphoning off all the excess energy. So, in the one true reality, the organic environment, where everything is perfect and real, heaven, you could call it if you want. So, in heaven, where everything is perfect eternally, because anything is possible, in heaven, there is no why. There is no why in heaven, because there's nothing wrong, and you're outside of time. Time only exists in why. It is an illusion created by the why machine. And what I mean by there's no why is like, why did this event happen that way? Why didn't I do this? Or why didn't I say that? You literally live it again, different. You're still living it as many times in different ways as you want. It's like a hyper-time sculpture in clay. So there is no why in eternity with unlimited energy and possibility outside of time. and you see directly. Like here, the only sight we have is what is reflected from the sun indirectly off another entity. But there, it's like you are the sun and you're emanating light, and the light is your sight and you're seeing directly. And it's also like everything is your eyes also. Like your whole body is like an eye, and you're seeing you're projecting your light is your sight. Like if you're standing with someone, there's no manipulation, there's no language. That's a construct of the Y machine. Like if you're standing with someone in the organic environment, you instantly know everything about them, and vice versa. You're just beaming your information straight into each other. Another way to imagine the Y machine is like a gyroscope. Like you're inside, but there's many more rings. Like Ezekiel's wheels within wheels, okay? And you're in the middle of this gyroscope, and the rings are spinning around you. So you're in the center, and these rings are spinning around you, but there's so many rings, so many levels, that it's literally completely blocking your view of the outside. And outside of the Y machine, outside of the gyroscope, is everything that is. Or you could say the truth, the organic environment, absolute. So these rings are all spinning, and there's never a time, really, when there's a gap in the rings, when you can actually see out to the absolute truth. But they're not totally solid. It's more like the infinite flashlight projector. It's more like film or something, where they're reflecting, diverting, refracting. Some of them are like filters, and then reflected again, to create this illusion of time and this entire reality, everything that's happening around you. Like the machine in Contact. The machine, the time is created by the Y machine. The time only exists in the machine. So she goes through the machine, and it's just like that. You just go straight through. It's like putting your hand through a mirror, and it's coming back at you. Exactly the same, out. Like you walk right through the mirror, and you walked out of the mirror at the same time. The time only exists in that imaginary space inside the gyroscope. So to everyone else, it looks like she just dropped straight through the machine. But if you watch at the very end of the movie, they say that the recording, the video recorder inside the device, recorded 18 hours of static. 18,666. The water, the time inside the Y machine.
Is that what you think, that I was delusional?
Well, I do think you may have suffered some kind of an episode, yeah. To put something like this together, so complex, drawing on so many different disciplines,
Would be impossible.
Perverse enough, eccentric enough to have come up with the idea in the first place?
Is that what you think, that I was delusional?
Well, I do think you may have suffered some kind of an episode, yeah. To put something like this together, so complex, drawing on so many different disciplines,
Would be impossible.
Perverse enough, eccentric enough to have come up with the idea in the first place?
So, like I was saying about the celestial alignments, the celestial alignments inside and outside as a reflection are these rare times when there is a gap in all the wheels and you get a glimpse of the absolute truth outside of the Y machine, outside of time, God. You get a glimpse of God. But not if you're distracted during the gap in the rings, during the celestial alignment. And in one way, you could imagine that you're in this gyroscope, wheels within wheels, Y machine. But in another way, it's like a mirror. It's just a 2D surface, like how we can see all these 3D and in time 4D images on the television, the telly. We can see our whole life in the Y machine. And it's an illusion that we're inside it. It's really just only your consciousness, only your attention, your light can go into it. And it's like this negative mirror, and you get this altered, inverted output signal entrained, intertwined with your input signal. And the illusion of time is created. So in one way, you're in the machine, but in one way, you never went into the machine. Nothing ever goes into the machine. It's an imaginary space. Only your attention goes into the machine. You are outside of time. So going down in the levels of virtual environments, or you could call them dimensions, since there is less information in each successive one, is like going down into liquid. Like if you imagine a 10-story elevator pit below ground, and it was filled with liquid. And the elevator is just a mesh cage on all sides, completely permeable. And your consciousness is just the space in the cage. Or you could say your consciousness is a field in the cage, an electromagnetic field within the cage. So now imagine, to start, you're at ground level. The cage is filled with air. You don't think you're in liquid, you're in air. Okay? Now imagine the pit filled with liquid is segmented at each floor, 10 stories. The liquid is divided at each floor. Like the top floor, floor -1, is oil. The next floor down, floor -2, is water. Floor -3 is mercury. And so on, with denser and denser liquids. I'm not sure exactly what they would be going down. But it doesn't matter. Denser and denser liquids separated, all segmented into 10 layers. So a descent into a new virtual environment is like this liquid, the new denser liquid, slowly rising up from the ground and filling the whole environment, the whole imaginary space with a new virtual environment. And being denser, it is like how each layer has less information, less energy, because it is further from the sun, further from the organic environment. This is like the joke. They say that the sun is 93 million miles away because we're so deep down the well. But every time, from your perspective, you always think you're in reality, but you can only see the top layer. Like you always think you're in air. That's why we're fish. That's why it's water and we're fish. They fish for us when they distract us. And we think they have why. They have the Holy Grail. Then they get to tell us why. Because we never catch the alignments. We're distracted. We never realize that it's an illusion. A machine. You can see right out of it, right through it. It's so from your perspective, you always think you're in air, in reality, but you can only see the top layer. Like you always think you're in air, not water, and suddenly this new reality starts slowly filling up the room like water. So when the elevator cage is at the beginning, at the top, that's the first level where you're existing up in air. Before you start descending down through, the elevator goes down through the layers of reality, time liquid, more and more time, less and less information. So now, just to make it even more complicated, that's just what it seems like. It seems like you're going down this well, down this pit. Every time there's a new reset, a new flood, or every time you go up a level, another reset, like a fire reset is going up. Fire is going up. It's like being burned. The virtual environment's being boiled off, literally. It's not regular water. It's like a different kind of water and fire. But so now, just to make it more complicated, that's just what it seems like. But it's 2D. It's a two-dimensional surface, a circle. It's all happening in imaginary space. So it would be more like first the cage is completely filled with air, then completely filled with big rocks, and it's completely full. Then you pour in an equal amount of little rocks, and then it's completely full again. Then sand, and it fills up again. And then finally water. You completely saturate the box with water, and it's full again. But still, it's all an illusion. It's still even not like that, because that's still 3D.
Even religious leaders that would like to see me depart this earth. I'll grant them their wish soon enough. Before I do, I wish to make a small contribution, a final gesture of goodwill to the people of this little planet that have given, from whom I have taken so much.
You found the primer.
Let me tell you why you're here. Let me tell you why you're here. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me.
So, in the Matrix, the ultimate red pill is that the real red pill is actually the blue pill. That's why they show the reflection in his sunglasses in that scene, to tell you that it's an inversion. Morpheus is actually the devil. That's why he's got this shit-eating grin on his face. And he's like, you take the blue pill, this all ends. But you take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole really goes. Because he's actually going down deeper into another virtual environment. That's what the water, the drowning, the liquid mirror is. So he's doing the pills, this whole thing with this shit-eating grin on his face.
You take the blue pill. story ends, you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So, like everything else, we were completely wrong about what the Matrix was about. Completely opposite. He's not coming out into reality. So then he takes the red pill, he basically kills himself. That's what the red pill is. Takes the cyanide capsule or whatever it is, and then literally goes down the rabbit hole. Not up a level towards reality, but down another level into water. That's what the whole mirror scene symbolizes. Drowning. It's so cold. The digital's down the well. And that's why not. He needs to know why. Why not? He needs to know why, so he's like, fuck it, why not? He takes the pill. That's what why not is. The source of why not is why. He needs to know why, so why not? Fuck it. He takes the pill down the fucking well. Okay? So then the ship and all that other bullshit that follows afterwards is an illusion, manipulation, and another deeper level of what is not. Deeper level of more limitation. Less possibility, less information. Okay, so those are going to be the keys. The moon, and the moon is down the well. The sun is up. I know it doesn't seem like that because they could be right next to each other in the sky, but that is because we're in the Y machine, this crazy spiraling, refracting gyroscope. But actually the moon is down the well, and the sun is up, God, towards the organic environment. Okay? So you say we are in the Y machine, we are in Y, but Y is what is not. And this certainly is something, isn't it? And this is why they say he's going into replication. Oh, it's so cold, drowning, replication, the reflection, the image, the fake illusion inside the Y machine. He's going into replication. He's going down into another virtual environment. The avatar replicated.
How would you know the difference between the dream and the real one? Be what?
It's going into replication.
Hey, Bob. Tank, we're going to need a signal soon.
Got fibrillation.
APOD, location, target.
It's going into arrest.
Lock, I got him. Now, Tank, now.
It's going into replication. It's going into replication. It's going into replication. It's going into replication.
Let's go.
Replication.
Let's go.
And this certainly is something, isn't it?
Let me get this straight. You admit that you have absolutely no physical evidence to back up your story.
Yes.
You admit that you very well may have hallucinated this whole thing.
Yes.
You admit that if you were in our position, you would respond with exactly the same degree of incredulity and skepticism.
Yes.
Then why don't you simply withdraw your testimony and concede that this journey to the center of the galaxy, in fact, never took place?
I had an experience. I can't prove it. I can't even explain it. But everything that I know as a human being, everything that I am tells me that it was real.